In 1564, in the Italian city of Pisa, a baby boy was born. He would grow up to be one of the most influential scientists of all time, and his story started right here in this tower. Let me tell you the incredible story of Galileo Galilei. Our story begins with Galileo's father, Vincenzo, a well-known musician who also worked as a lutenist in the court of the Medici family. You see, Galileo was destined to be a musician too, continuing the family tradition. But Galileo had other plans. From a young age, he showed curiosity about the world around him, not only in music and art, but in mathematics and nature as well. One day, his father gifted him a compass, which Galileo took apart immediately. Though he was just a kid, he already wanted to know how things worked. When Galileo was 8, his family moved to Florence. Here, Galileo attended a monastery school run by the order of the Camaldolese monks. While studying there, he learned Latin and some Greek, but more importantly, he studied philosophy, geometry, and astronomy. By the time he was 15, he knew he wanted to be a scholar, not a musician. Vincenzo wasn't thrilled about this, though. He wanted Galileo to study medicine, so he sent him to the University of Pisa to study just that. But after 2 years, Galileo had had enough. He didn't want to be a doctor, and he certainly didn't want to follow his father's footsteps. He convinced his father to let him switch to mathematics instead. And so he became one of the first people to ever study math as an independent field, not as part of another subject like philosophy or science. He graduated in 1586 and became a professor at the university at just 25. He taught there for 10 years, training many students while conducting bold experiments of his own. It is here in Pisa that Galileo supposedly dropped different weights from the top of the Leaning Tower. Of course, it might just be a legend, but it illustrates Galileo's desire to understand the world through experimentation. Drop a feather and a hammer at the same time, and you will see that they hit the ground at the same instant. Of course, you will have to do it several times because the wind often interferes. But when you succeed, you will know that mass doesn't matter when it comes to gravity. All objects fall at the same rate. In other words, weight is not a measure of mass. This went against what Aristotle had taught. And it was just the beginning of Galileo's troubles with the scientific establishment. Anyway, in 1609, news reached Galileo of a device from Holland that made distant objects appear closer. And though Galileo was initially skeptical, he decided to build his own telescope to see what all the fuss was about. And that's when everything changed. Soon Galileo was making important discoveries about the night sky and the planets. Using his improved telescope, he discovered mountains on the moon, countless stars in the Milky Way, and even moons orbiting Jupiter. This discovery alone shook the scientific community like an earthquake. Just think about it. For centuries, the moon had been considered a smooth, perfect sphere. And now, Galileo was telling them it had mountains and craters. Naturally, they didn't believe him. Anyway, in 1610, he published his findings in a book called The Starry Messenger. It shocked scholars, but thrilled those eager for knowledge. Suddenly, everyone wanted to hear more about Galileo's discoveries and the incredible telescope he used. He became famous almost overnight. In fact, people wanted to know more about the device itself and how he managed to make it so strong and clear. Galileo obliged and wrote a book called The Inventions, Made by My Hand. It described the telescope in great detail and explained how he made it so strong and clear. You see, Galileo supported the ideas of Nicolaus Copernicus, who claimed the Earth revolved around the sun. This went against what the Catholic Church believed. At the time, it was widely accepted that Earth was the center of the universe with all other planets, including the sun, revolving around it. Galileo's evidence against this view, the phases of Venus and the moons of Jupiter, were undeniable. But he still got into big trouble for supporting Copernicus. In 1632, Galileo published dialogue concerning the two chief world systems. In it, he presented arguments both for and against the sun-centered universe, but made it clear which one he thought was correct. It didn't take long for the Catholic Church to respond. They sent him a letter warning him to stay silent about the sun-centered universe. But Galileo didn't listen. He continued to teach and write about heliocentrism, believing that truth must be spoken, no matter the risk. In 1633, Galileo was summoned to Rome by the Inquisition. There he was accused of heresy and forced to recant his belief that Earth moved around the sun. As he left the trial, 'tis said that he whispered, "And yet it moves." Galileo spent the last years of his life under house arrest. Even then, he continued to write and research, eventually going blind. He passed away in 1642. The same year Isaac Newton was born, as if the torch of discovery was being passed on. Galileo Galilei was a true pioneer. He is considered the father of modern science. He showed that observation, evidence, and reason are the paths to truth, and that no matter how powerful the establishment is, truth will always prevail. Now it's time for you to make your voice heard. Comment below. What did you think of Galileo's story? Do you know any other great scientists? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to check out more stories of amazing people. And don't forget to subscribe for more amazing content. Thank you for watching.